And now on to Homes Today. This is a presentation of Audrey Forshey, who's a famous RE/MAX realtor as well as an advisor. This morning, Audrey has alongside her a senior loan officer by the name of Mr. Barry Filderman. Together, these two professionals are engaged in a conversation on credit repair. Now, that is very important in all our lives. So let's pay that extra attention.
Hello friends, thank you for joining us today on Homes Today. My name is Audrey Forshey and I'm a RE/MAX real estate agent in Montgomery County, Maryland. And we have our friend again, Mr. Barry Filderman, who is a senior loan officer in Maryland as well. We're going to talk to you today about fixing credit issues. Sometimes we have issues on our credit reports and we're not even aware that maybe there's a mistake on there. Sometimes people have had medical problems and they don't even know that something got put onto their credit report. And when you go to get a mortgage to buy a property, then potentially you might come up with a lower score, and the lower score will then potentially give you a higher interest rate on your loan that you're looking to get for 30 years. So we want to address these things up front and let you know. So we'll start by saying hi to Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
So what's the first thing we need to do is pull our credit and take a look at it, and then what do we do?
Well, the first thing you do is you pull your credit.
Right.
Then what you do is look at it and make sure that everything is accurate. And a lot of times things are wrong. Actually, 1 in every 5 people's credit report, there's something wrong.
Really?
Yes. And you want to take a look to make sure that there aren't any collections that aren't yours. If there's any late payments, that you make sure that they're legitimate late payments. Any charge-offs, judgments, bankruptcies.
What's a charge-off?
Charge-off is when the creditor actually charges off the debt where they wipe it off their books. And a lot of times with the charge-off, they have a balance, but when you call up the creditor, because it's off their books accounting-wise, you can't pay it because then they got to add it back on, so they don't accept the money.
So what do? Like turn it over to a collection agency or something like that, or do they just make it go away?
Sometimes they just leave it alone and it's a charge-off, and other times they sell that debt to a collection agency, and sometimes the debt is zero when they charge it off. Sometimes it's not. So you have to know, and depending on the program, sometimes you don't have to pay it off, even if it is a charge-off, and sometimes you do.
But it will still affect your credit score.
Yes.
If it's on your credit,
Yes.
right? And does it improve with time? Like I know that they say that if you have a bankruptcy or a short sale or something like that that would negatively affect your credit score, time makes it, improves
Yes.
your credit. Is a charge-off stay there, or
Charge-offs stay for 7 years, bankruptcy stay for 10, foreclosures stay for at least 7 to 10 years as well. The majority of the model on these credit scores are based in the last 24 months.
Okay.
So if you're clean for the last 24 months, you're most likely going to have a decent score. A collection is a collection is a collection. So even if you pay it, it's not going to change the fact it's still a collection.
And it's going to stay on your credit report even if you pay it?
And the thing is, no, if you don't pay it, if the creditor re-ups it, so if you say the 7 years are up, but let's say 2 weeks right before the 7 years are up, they file it again. Well, it's another 7 years. The clock doesn't start until really it's paid.
So let's say that I get my credit pulled, or I have a client that gets their credit pulled and they have some mistakes, or they have collections that they didn't even know, or late payments that they were not aware of. So what do? We come to see you and then we make a plan on how to fix all of these items. Is that correct? And we make a plan to fix them?
Yes. Now, depending on who you go to, now this is very important. The credit situation with credit scores and credit repair companies, there's some of them are scams and sometimes they're not. Some loan officers like myself know how to fix credit, some do not. And this is a very important topic to discuss. First of all, the first thing I think you should do is tell your children how important credit scoring is.
Yes.
I think the kids, because they're young, they don't realize, but that's the number that's going to follow them for
Yes.
a long time, and
Yes.
it's going to stop them from buying cars, houses, credit cards, etc.
I've even written some blog posts that have said that should be a school curriculum for kids starting early, like their freshman year in high school, so they can understand how important your credit score is throughout your entire life.
That would be a great idea. But knowing and being in the business, I got my kids' scores as soon as I could. Each one of
Right.
and I got their scores to the point where they could maintain it and hopefully not mess it up.
Very good.
But what I suggest people do is right from the start, put that child on a car loan with you when you buy them that car, or put them on a credit card with you. Even put them on your credit cards, but don't give them the card if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But put them on there, and that'll help create a score, and let them know how important it is. Now, secondly, when you buy a house and you see your score, the first thing that you can do is the credit card balances. The majority of the scores, when you move scores up and down, it's
Yes.
usually because of credit score balances. You can make a
Credit
big
card
change.
balances.
What did I say?
Credit score,
Oh, I'm
sorry.
so sorry. Credit card balances.
Okay.
So it's easy to increase your score, and it's also easy to make your score worse by running up your credit card debt. So that's the first thing I look at is what can we do to with a little amount of money to get that score up so we
Okay.
can give them a better rate or qualifying for a program. Now, you got to understand that the credit scoring system is based on percentages. So let's just say, for example, you have a $1,000 credit card,
Okay.
and you owe $999.
Right.
Now, if you pay it down to $100, that'll make your score go up a lot, and it's only $900. Now, the computer doesn't pick up if you have a $10,000 credit card and you owe $9,999. You're going to have to spend $9,000 to do the same thing. So every now and then we get people that have a $300 high credit. They got 2 cards, $300, $500, and they're all maxed out.
Yes.
But it's not a lot of money,
Right.
and the scores jump with just a few $100s to take care of. So the credit cards are the first thing you want to mess with to see if you can play.
Okay.
The second thing you want to do is collections.
Okay.
They're the easiest things to have removed,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Collections are required by law to do certain procedures when you file a collection. So let's just say, for example, a creditor has to, say, fill out 10 pieces of paper. They have to do 10 things, and the laws are antiquated, so a lot of these laws are by hand.
Okay.
Well, with technology, a lot of this stuff's not done.
All the way. They
Yeah.
haven't finished
And
it.
then when a collection gets older and you sell the loan to a collection agency who sells it to a collection agency, a lot of the paperwork gets lost. Now, here's where you got to be careful, because a lot of these credit repair companies are scams.
Okay.
All
yeah,
they do is
I've heard
dispute.
that.
All they do is dispute.
Yeah.
You got to find a company that will put the creditor on trial, not you. So
Okay.
what they're going to do is they're going to say, you prove to me you did those 10 pieces of paper within the law, and if you can't prove it, it comes off. You got 30 days to respond, and you need someone to make sure that they have followed every bit of the law. And it's about an 80% success rate on collections.
Really?
If you have, now look at it realistically, if you have a small collection for $100, and I go to you and say, now go in your archives and you prove to me you got these 10 pieces
From
of paper,
7 years ago.
you're not going to spend the money.
Right.
It's going to cost you more money to investigate it than the $100 collection is.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay, and secondly, if they're old, they're not going to have all the documentation. It gets lost. They're not. How many times do you have your customer call and there's a collection on a credit report and they go, "We have no record of you"? Well, if you don't respond and you don't show them the proper documentation by law, it
They
has
have
to come
to
off.
take- they have to take
so
it
the
off.
collections are easy. The late payments are difficult.
Okay.
That is tough, and the newer it is, the harder it is to get off, because that's a legitimate.
Yeah, you were late on your payment.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the collection. So let's just say that we have somebody that has a collection and they can't come up with the documentation for the collection, like you said, and it has to come off of the credit report. Once that happens and they take it off, how long does it take them to get it off of the credit report, and how long does it take till their score goes up?
Once you get documentation from the agency saying it's removed, it should be immediate.
Really?
Yes.
And then
when
the
you,
big
when you
credit-
pay down a credit card, for instance, let's say I can get your score up 30 points, but you got to pay down the credit card. Well, when you do that, it could take 30, 60 days
Okay.
for it to post.
Okay.
But there are something called rapid rescores.
Okay.
And I do those as well. So that takes 3 to 5 business days. So you take the documentation. So let's say you get saying they're going to delete the credit, the collection. So I would take that deletion letter, send it to the bureaus with a rapid rescore, pay $40 per trade line per bureau.
Okay.
Comes right off.
And when you talk about the bureaus, you're talking about like Equifax and all those people.
Experian,
okay.
TransUnion, yes.
Okay. And then after you've done those kinds of things, I've also heard that you're not supposed to close your old credit cards.
That's correct.
So I've had credit cards that I thought, well, I never use this credit card anymore. I'm just going to close the account. But then I've heard that that's not what you're supposed to do. Why is that?
Well, that's a good question. What the computer or the model they use shows available credit to you.
Okay.
So if you have a $1,000 credit card and you close it, that's $1,000 less that you have available to you.
All right.
So if you have two $1,000 credit cards and you close one of them and you have $500 in that one, you have 50% available credit to you.
Okay.
If you left the other one open, just keep it at zero, $500 of $2,000 is now 25%.
But I thought that it could be negative if you have access to too much credit. Like the credit, they would score you thinking, oh my gosh, they have $10,000 worth of credit available to them. Does the credit bureau or do the computer models look at that as a risk that you might actually charge those up? Does that hurt you too?
Well, it hurts you if you open up new credit.
Okay.
But if you have existing 10, 15 credit cards, and I'm not a credit repair specialist, but if you have 10, 15 credit cards that you've had for 5, 6 years, that helps.
Okay.
Now, if they're all maxed out, that's not going to help.
No, you got to pay them down, right?
Yes.
I know that I've talked to some people that have had maybe a bankruptcy or a short sale, and they were trying to rebuild their credit. And I thought I had read somewhere that maybe what they should get to help start rebuilding their credit is, they have those little credit cards where you can have like a $500 credit limit, and you put $500. It's like a savings account. You actually put the $500.
It's called a secured credit card.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
And then I just have told them, I say, charge it and pay it off, and charge it and pay it off, and just keep showing that you're paying everything on time. Is that a way to rebuild your credit score and raise it up too?
That's a good way. You want to, if that's the only way you can start again, is to get a secured card, and that's getting a $500 card and putting $500 in the bank. And if you don't pay the $500, they'll take your money from the bank. So they're protected.
Right.
And paying things off, like you're saying, not keeping a balance is the best way.
Okay.
Now, you don't want to not use the card.
Right.
And you really don't want to keep a card at zero.
You want to use it.
You want to use it,
because you want to show that you're paying it
Buy
every
a tank
month.
of gas, pay it. Buy a tank of gas, pay it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to use it to the max.
Okay.
And that does help you create a new credit.
Okay. And then, I think people don't understand that when you go to a store and you're shopping for something, and how you're buying things, they'll say, do you want to open up a store credit card right here at the checkout line, and it's instant, and you can just open up a credit card. That's not a good thing to do, because then you have too many credit cards, right? So
well, it's not a good thing to do when you're buying a house, because what it's going to do, it's going to create an inquiry.
Okay.
Every loan right before it closes, we do a refresh.
Okay.
If they see another inquiry, not only does the inquiry, that could affect your credit, but then I got to prove that you don't have a debt.
Oh, okay.
So that's not a good idea. And if you open up a credit card, then I got to show that you haven't used it, or if you did use it, what the payment is. It could cause a lot of delays.
And then the other thing too is you don't want to do things like go and buy a car or any major purchase if you're under contract to buy a house. I can't tell you how many times people have said, I'm getting a new house, I should get a new car, and all that sort of stuff.
I'll give you an example. It just happened to me a week ago.
It did?
Yes, I had a person that had a car, and they refinanced the car, got a lower rate and a lower payment.
Right.
But because they ran new credit and it was a new loan,
yes,
when I refreshed, the automatic underwriting turned it down. It approved it, and then it turned it down.
Because of the car?
Because of the new loan. Even though it was a lower payment, it turned it down because of the new loan. It didn't like it.
And so did that person lose their opportunity to purchase their house, or
it
were
was
you
so
able
close.
to?
I was able to. The underwriters were very nice. I was able to save it, but they were real close to losing that house.
That's very hard.
You got to be careful.
And then what happens if maybe your identity's been stolen? How do you deal with that, with the FBI, or how do you deal with that?
Well, you want to, and that's a good question, and actually it happened to me. I had a $100 collection from a cable company, let's say.
Right.
And my score dropped 100 points because the collection was there.
Right.
So what I did is I went to the police, I filed a report, I
Right.
sent the report to the cable company,
Right.
and they immediately removed it.
They did.
Yes. So you got to jump on it though.
Okay.
If you have someone stole your identity, you got to call the creditors, and if it's affecting your credit score, file that police report because they're not going to question a police report.
All right. Well, thanks, Barry.
Okay.
I think that's been very helpful information. You know, things happen to us and credit gets affected for people, and it's not always our fault. You know, there could be things that are not accurate. So make sure you pull your credit at least, what would you say, like once a year, twice a year, just to check it?
Once a year.
Once a year should be good, just to check it and monitor it. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.